Okay, so we're back and we have our new document already set up. If you haven't seen that portion of the demo, you want to go back to the new document set up for Photoshop. But what we're going to talk about next is just some of the basic tools of Photoshop and some of the functions. So one of the things I had you do was create a transparent background, which is this checkerboard box-like setting here. If you look down to the bottom right, you should have what we call our layers window. So that should be open. If that is not open, for some reason it didn't pop up, or it was closed out, or you close it by accident, you can go up to Window and go down to Layers. So F7 on your keyboard will also take you there automatically. But this is really where you can check to make sure everything's turned on. So if you want your layers window off, you can see there it turns it off. Here we want it to be on. Down below here, what you're going to see is a couple different options you can play with. Actually, a lot of different options. Main thing we're going to talk about right now is just setting up basic layers. So the way to think about layers are that they're kind of like infinitely thin sheets of plexiglass or paper that stack on top of one another. And you can create separation between them, but really they're just kind of these flat things on top of one another, at least in terms of how we kind of view them. Down below here you have a couple different options. This right here, that little box within the box, kind of with a piece of paper peeling up, that is your new layer button. You can also hit Command-Shift-N, and that'll bring up a dialog box where you can create a new layer. But we're going to click on this one here. That's going to create layer 2. So you can see right there, we have two different layers. How we know we're working with a particular layer is I click on it and it highlights it. Okay. All right. So having some problems with my mouse setting here, so I'm going to zoom in. A little bit of issues there, and we're good. I'm going to go over here and we're going to start talking about our toolbar. So a couple things we can do here. First thing we're going to do is we're actually going to paint one of our layers white. Okay, so you can see down below in our layers, one's blue, one is not. That would be the one that's selected. The other one's not selected is just gray. And what we're going to do is we're going to paint that thing, that one layer. So we're going to go over here and we're going to look for our paint bucket tool. Now, it's going to be hidden, depending on how yours is set up, it's going to probably be hidden below our gradient tool. So if you hit G, that's the hotkey for gradient, also the hotkey for paint bucket. No easy real way to remember that, but you kind of get used to it over time. So we're going to click on this and basically hold down, left click and hold down until this just opens up, and now we're able to scroll over, and then we're going to release that onto the paint bucket tool. Okay, so right now we want to color this thing white. Down below, what you'll see here in the bottom of your layers window is you have a black and a white, color swatch. This is your color, or kind of your color picker, one of them. At this point, the top color is going to be the one that you would be able to paint with. So that's your foreground color. The other one would be a background color. That's going to be functioning with some other different things. So right now we want this to be white. There's a couple ways for this to happen. Okay, the easiest way actually is that little toggle arrow, and that switches your colors from foreground to background. So if you want to switch back, you wanted black, you could just hit that. That's the easiest way. If, say, we wanted to change colors, I could double click and I can go in here and I can choose whatever color I want. Okay, but we want white. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go out here. We're on layer 2, so you should have 2 layers. Leave the bottom one alone, and you're going to hit just paint. Now, if for some reason one of your layers is locked, meaning it has a padlock on it, kind of like that, what you can do is double click on it, and that'll unlock it, or you can click on the lock right here in your layers window down below, and that will turn that lock off. Okay. So now we have some layers, we can start messing around with some of the functions of the tools. So our toolbar is over here to the left. Again, if that's not there, you can go to Window and to Tools. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. Window and to Workspace, and we want to say Essentials. That's where we want to go to make sure that everything's popped up. So if you click on that, it'll set up everything how it should be, how we're going to kind of be using it for right now. And you can click on that little arrow on the top, or that double arrow on the top, to expand your toolbar so that you have a single or double column. Okay, so I'm going to leave it as the single column, right? And we're going to go to that second option from the top, which is our elliptical marquee, or if you hold down, you have a couple different other options. Two main ones we want to use now is our rectangular and elliptical marquees. These are basically tools that are going to make selections. Okay, and what a selection is it could be a shape that you could fill. It could be a shape that you're going to cut something out. It could be very specific to an image. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go down to the bottom, create another new layer. And on that layer, I want you to take your elliptical marquee tool, or square marquee, or I'm sorry, rectangular marquee, either one, and just create some shapes. Okay, so if you click and drag, you'll be able to drag out a box. Now, if I click off of that and do it again, that first box is going to disappear. If, however, I hold down Shift, I'll be able to create multiples. I can connect them if I wanted to. Do different shapes. Okay. Just kind of create a series of boxes. You can connect them, or circles, either way. I can also switch. Say if I want to go to the elliptical, and I continue to hold down Shift. Okay, now I'm able to create extra shapes, and you can see this blinking line is essentially our selection. So it's saying, all right, this area or these areas are what we want to work with. Now we can do a lot of things. We could cut stuff out. We could fill stuff in there. What we're going to do is we're going to paint another color in. So I want you to go back to your paint bucket. So your G would be your hotkey. And pick a color. Go with a teal. And we go out here and just click, and I'm going to dump it in that area. Now you can see that my boxes are still kind of blinking there. Now if I click on the outside of these boxes, notice it won't let me paint in those areas. That's because that selection only allows us to paint what we actually highlighted. There's a lot of different tools that are like that. One thing you could do if I wanted to fill the reverse of this, say the background contents, like everything that's not teal right now, I could go up to the top and go to Select and go to Inverse. And you can see right here, this that little arrow on our inverse is a Shift. That is our Command key, and then it looks like I. So it's Command Shift I would be inverse for your command. So we're going to hit Inverse, and now it's going to switch our selection. So you can see that bounding box, or I'm sorry, not that bounding box, that selection box is all the way to the edge and all the white areas. So now let's go pick another color. Go green. Go out there and just drop it in. And you can see now it's going to just allow me to fill in areas that are not that teal area. Okay, now if I want to get rid of this selection box, there's two ways. There's a couple ways to do it. One is you can take your basic selection tool and just click again. Okay, or another way would be Command D. Okay, so Command D takes it away. Right? Or just with the simple click of a tool, like the rectangular or elliptical marquee, it takes it away. So that's a basic selection tool. There's going to be a lot of other functions that you would use these for, but that's just kind of a basic understanding of it. We could also go in here. Notice down in our layers, we have colors on this layer, layer 3. We have white on layer 2, and then a clear layer 1. Say I take layer 2, which is white, and drop it on top, drag and drop it on top of 3. You can see it goes away, or I can move layer 2 back. Okay, so I'm able to mess with my layer order by just dragging those things around. We'll use that again. Right now, I still want my colored layer up on top. And then another thing you can do is say you don't want to see your layer. Okay, you click on the eyeball. All right, and that makes it invisible. That also makes it so you can't do anything in that layer. You can delete it, but it's just not workable. So I'm going to turn it back on. Okay. Next tool we're going to talk about is our lasso. And that is going to be, there's a couple different lassos. So it's the third tool down right now. L is the hotkey. That'll take you instantly to that tool. And I have 3 different options. So I have lasso, polygonal, lasso tool and our magnetic lasso tool. So we're going to talk probably about the lasso and polygonal right now, and then we'll go on to the magnetic at a later point. The lasso tool, though, much like the elliptical and rectangular marquee tools, is going to allow you to make selections, but it's going to let you do that in free form. So say I wanted to make a selection on layer 3 of just whatever, just a blob, right? Okay, and I connect it all. Now this shape is, my selection. So if I wanted to go in here and say I wanted to fill it with a color, okay, orange, go to my paint bucket, and now the reason it did that was because it is a selection, but this is allowing me to only fill those things that are that color. So if I click on the teal, it'll fill all the teal things. Okay, so you'd have to go in kind of methodically and fill that in. All right, so that's an option. You could also create another new layer and then just fill it as a whole chunk. All right, so that's one of the things that you'll notice about this is that if you click on a color that's already there, if it's not blank, it'll only fill those particular colors. Now, if we wanted to take a chunk out, say we don't want this orange, we want this to be a hole in layer 3. We just hit the large delete button on our keyboard, and that will make essentially the hole there. And then to take this away, I'm going to hit Command D. So I always put my finger on Command first, and then D, and it takes it away. All right. The polygonal lasso tool is going to make geometric shapes, or somewhat geometric shapes, I guess, with straight lines. So you can see here, it's going to make it extremely straight. And now you couldn't necessarily switch tools. See if I go off, that thing follows me in between this. But you could switch tools after you create this shape. Okay, so make a shape, and then this time we're going to do this a little bit differently though. This fill here. Okay, so I double click. If right there what happened was I double clicked twice, so it went away. Now there's no real reason to worry. If I make a small mistake like that, I can just go back. And the way to go back, there's a couple different. One would be Edit, Undo, Deselect. Okay, so there's my shape again. I'm going to go Edit, Redo, Deselect, so you can see another way. Another way would be Command Z. Okay, so if I hit Command Z, that's going to undo it. And then I could also do Command Option Z, which is going to take me back a bunch of steps. Okay, so, and then you can also go Shift, Command Z, and that'll take you forward multiple steps. Okay, so that's important to know. That's a really easy way to get back and forth if you make a mistake. So right now we're going to actually go and we're just going to fill this thing in. And we're going to go to a different tool. We're going to go to our B brush tool. Now you're going to have different options under here. You have color replacement, you have pencil and brush we're going to kind of talk about, but right now we'll talk about brush. And we're going to fill this with our brush tool. So different than the paint bucket, it's not going to fill an entire area. So this one, you can see how small that the point is on that brush. Okay, there's a couple different ways you can change the size of that. One would be to right click and you have your master diameter changed there. Okay. And then you can go out there and start painting. Or you can go up top here. So this right below where like the Photoshop and file and everything is, it's going to be really important because that's going to allow you to mess with brush size. So you can customize it. You can also customize the hardness and softness of the edge. So you can see this one, 19, is really hard edge, very like solid, whereas 27 has a very soft kind of paint or airbrush kind of look. So I'm going to bring up the diameter a little bit. You can always kind of bring your brush over to see how big it's really looking on your screen. Okay, so I'm going to go and I'm just going to paint. And now that's the airbrush look. You have like kind of like a cloudiness to it. If I went with the 19 solid, I can go in and I can make skinny lines. All right. The hotkeys for doing changing the size of your paintbrush and really anything that needs a size change are actually going to be on your keyboard, and you're going to look at the letter P and then look at the brackets to the right of the letter P on your keyboard. The left bracket's going to make your brush smaller, and the right bracket's going to make it bigger. So if you hit that right bracket, as I'm doing right now, you can see my brush getting larger, and go in, and we can just fill this thing. Okay, I switch colors. Do that. what happened was I hit the option button, so it selected a color, but we're going to not talk about that right now. All right, so that is some of your basic selection tools and ways that you can fill these objects and shapes of color. There's other options and ways to use this, but for now, that's kind of what we're going to talk about. Before you go too much further, though, we also want to save this thing too. So I'm going to deselect. You can see my masterpiece here, right? Just a bunch of shapes, and I'm going to go File. We're going to go Save. Hotkey for that would be Command S. You can also save it as a different version if you wanted to have two. So we're going to go File, Save, and I always tell people to put their stuff on their desktop or their documents. I say desktop. I think it's the easiest to find. Format. We want ours to be Photoshop, so if you go down below here, and I'm not sure exactly what yours is going to look like, you might have an option that looks like this, or you could hit that little caret and you could open up these options. So what I'm going to do is open this up, go Format, I'm going to say Photoshop. And we're going to say desktop, so we're going to say, title this as your name, Test Vicus 1. Save it to desktop, Photoshop, perfect. Save, hit OK, and you are good.